Hey, you know what it is? It's Wednesday, and that means time for another edition of Wednesday with Walton and Reis here at the CardinalNation.com in video form and in audio form and at the Scoop Sports Network and available, of course, via all your favorite podcast apps. Hello, Kyle.
Hello, Brian. How are you, sir?
Good. So, this is the part where, like in a bad movie, well, a lot of movies actually, the antagonist shares with the protagonist and the whole audience what his diabolical scheme is so that of course he can be thwarted and look like an idiot at the end. So that's what's
Yes.
going to happen tonight. As we talked about before, in the middle of every month I do a revamp of the Cardinal Nation top 50 prospect list, and I start with the version that we had in the offseason, which by the way is available on the site. Up at the top of the page over about here is the word prospects. You can click on that and see the prospect list as we came into the season. But now that we have about 6 weeks of play, it's time to kind of move guys up and down. And you could argue their potential hasn't changed, but results matter too. So I usually do this by myself, but I thought, hey, what if I roped Kyle in and said, hey, here's kind of the guys I'm thinking about moving up and down and around, and let him say, yeah, you're all wet, or yeah, that's cool, or whatever it may be. So we're going to try that out tonight. The actual article, I don't know when it'll get published in the next few days, whenever I write it. But I don't feel like I'm behind because it's not the 15th yet.
Good.
So 50 names. Now it's down to 47 because of graduations and a couple of trades and a sale of one of Kyle's former favorite players, Ryan Ludus, who's no longer in the organization. So of the 47 names, there's obviously 10 in the top 10. In my top 10, in my view, since the October, November, when we did the rankings, I have 3 players trending up, 3 players flat, and 4 players down. Not exactly what you want to see, but we've talked a lot about the pitching injuries. And it's hard for me to say, for example, a Cooper Jerpy or a Tank Hence is trending up or even flat when they can't pitch at all. So, you kind of get the logic on that. But when it expands and you include the next 10, I've got 10 out of the top 20 in my list trending down. The second 10, there's a lot of guys that aren't stepping up, and we'll talk about a lot of them, but guys like Ian Bedell and Zach Showalter, who's injured, and Juan Mincho, who was injured. And there's a bunch of guys like that we're hoping would step up, and at least, by mid-May, they haven't done that yet. And then when you get to the top 47 or top 50, 22 are just short of half. I have trending down, 11 flat, and 14 trending up. I'd hope it would be better, and maybe I'm being too hard on guys. But what we're going to do in this edition is we'll talk about some of the guys, and we'll start with the positives, the guys trending up, and Kyle will get the opportunity, of course, to add. He has his own prospect list that folks who went to Birds in the Black to see saw it, or can go back and see it now because our rankings aren't the same. But that's not bad. Prospects it's all subjective. Different people have different ways of looking at things. Different people have different ways of evaluating ceiling versus floor, and where they are right now versus where they could be. So there's no right or wrong answers in any of this. Any general comments before we get into players?
No, I actually like that it might be interpreted that you were a little bit more critical. I like that. I think that that's probably the way to handle this, especially when you're going from month to month. So that was my takeaway. When I looked at your list, I thought, I mean, we really don't have that much difference. And if we're going to disagree, I'm going to have to do some nitpicking because I think you and I are pretty well on the same level with a lot of them.
Well, that's boring as hell. Make
I
up
know.
something. Make up something.
I will. I'm gonna come after you. JJ Weatherholt down. He's down. I hate him. No.
All right, so let's talk about the guys that are up in my top 10. They're JJ Weatherholt, Jimmy Crooks, and Michael McGreevy. I don't think anybody's going to argue about Michael McGreevy. He's pitching well at AAA. He's pitched well when he's had a chance with St. Louis. The luster was kind of off McGreevy last year till he made his necessary changes so that he can get batters out from both sides of the plate. But I think Michael McGreevy's not going to be number 9 anymore when my new rankings come out. What do you feel about that, Kyle?
Yeah, I agree. Michael McGreevy is everything that we wanted him to be when he was drafted. Everything that he could conceivably be when he was drafted from a standpoint. He's everything you would want him to be. So yeah, I think I'm just like you. I think I'm happy that next time he comes around, hopefully he won't even have to be ranked. because of what he's done so far.
Exactly.
So
Graduate and, get those, what is it, 50 innings pitched? I think it is.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
And,
yeah.
and by the way, McGreevy's been, and maybe we've talked about this before, McGreevy's been a workhorse his entire career. I mean, it's not unusual for him to throw 130, 140 innings in the minor leagues. And remember, their seasons are shorter than at the major league level. So
Yeah,
he's been a guy that's been durable.
and I was going to say, and doing it without any sign of slowing down. Like he never has like, oh, in this fourth inning, he's throwing 92 miles an hour. He stays consistent throughout every one of his starts. And it's been like that for ever since he was drafted.
All right. So Jimmy Crooks moved up to Memphis at age 23, starting. And his OPS 763, certainly not bad, slugging 438. But you look at his productivity. Jimmy Crooks has played in 28 games so far, has 27 RBI, 5 home runs. So, Jimmy Crooks has been delivering, producing, driving in runs, and hitting the ball over the fence. I think maybe he's second in the system in home runs right now.
Yeah, I just love everything he's doing. And you keep hearing the reports of the teammate he is and the preparer he is. He keeps making strides against left-handed pitching. Again, I want to disagree, but I think all he's done is increase his stock, day by day. I'll say one area where you and I do disagree on, as we talk about the catchers in the top 10, is for me, even though the stats aren't exactly pretty, I would say that Leo Bernal is trending up as well. I think he's only hitting, like entering today, he was only hitting 206 or something like that. Nothing pretty, but he's still getting on base about 34% of the time, and he's not striking out. His strikeout to walk rate is kind of like 1-to-1 almost. I should just
Which is tremendous, by the way. And in support of you arguing with myself, remember Leonardo Bernal is 21 years old at AA.
Yeah.
And that his eye is good enough that he can walk as much as he strikes out. Now, again, as you said, he's barely batting above the Mendoza line, but his OBP is 341, which you take all day long. You'd like to see a little more power from him, but again, he's 21 games into his AA career.
Yeah, little by little with the power. That's the key for me. Like tonight, he's kind of an interesting switch hitter. I think he's a better switch hitter left-handed. I think he just takes better at bats left-handed than he does right. Tonight he hit a home run right-handed on a line to the right center field gap, the opposite field gap. The power is there. The approach is there. It's all coming together. I think what I'm most impressed with, because there's some questions about him behind the plate, I just feel like as a 21-year-old, he's making incredible progress as both an offensive catcher and a defensive catcher, even if the batting average isn't there yet. I feel like all the indications about Leonardo Bernal at AA so far have been incredibly positive, even if the luck or the results aren't there. He's hitting the ball hard, just a lot of times at people. So I really like what he's done this year. Again, nitpicking, splitting hairs, for me, I would say trending up, but
Kyle, yeah. You've convinced me. I will change my grade on Leonardo Bernal. And by the way, both of us rank them and when I say them, I mean Crooks and Bernal, in the 6 to 8 range. And so they're close. Crooks is a little bit ahead, but that's because he's a level ahead. I mean, if you can visualize 2 more years of maturity from Leonardo Bernal, he's probably going to be doing more than Crooks is at AAA right, at that time.
I could see that. And he'll have the benefit of not being rushed at all or having the expectations that come with being a somewhat advanced collegiate draftee.
I mean, talk about not rushed. I mean, Bernal's got to be going, wait a minute, now there's 4 catchers ahead of me. And I'm sure those things will get worked out by the time Leonardo Bernal is ready. I'm not so sure they're going to be worked out by the time that Jimmy Crooks is ready, but we'll have to see what happens later in the year.
Yeah. And so other than that, I look at your top 10 list in particular, because I'm with you. I think the key is, you laid it out beautifully, Brian, pitching injuries. When you have that many pitching injuries and you have that many pitchers in the top 10, if they're all hurt, it's an easy grade to put them down.
Yeah, and I mean, let's go down to 12, which is Sam Robertson. So, of the first 6 pitchers in the system, 4 of them are on the IL right now. One of them's Roby, who's being handled very, very carefully, and the other's McGreevy, who probably shouldn't be in the minor leagues at all. And then if you go to 13, you can add Chen Wei Lin, who just came off the injured list, has only made a couple of starts this season. So, the pitching depth that the Cardinals were hoping to build really isn't coming about yet this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Now they're, we talked about it last week with Gordon Graceffo. Now Gordon Graceffo is a prominent member of the St. Louis Cardinal bullpen.
And I traded him up, but he's trending up as a reliever. As a starter, Graceffo had kind of stagnated, it seemed like to me. But, this shot, I mean, we all saw that was it against the Mets when he came in and got 3 quick outs in the 9th inning and got picked up the save. Well, maybe it wasn't against the Mets, but anyway, Graceffo is going to looks like he could be a real asset in the pen. And I think looking at the Cardinals rotation, the guys that are going to competing, Graceffo was always going to kind of be on the fringe anyway. So I like the idea they decided to make him a reliever, and who knows, I'm jumping way ahead, but if Ryan Helsley leaves, Graceffo, might be a guy that could step in.
Yeah, I like that they threw him to the fire. For some reason, I thought it was the Mets too. It might have been the Reds. When I was staring off into the distance, I was like, was it the Reds that he got the save against? Man, yeah. The thing about them winning all the time now is that it all blends together.
It's so boring. All those wins, it's so boring.
Yeah, what do we have to complain and whine about if they're winning all the time?
But I think that the fortuitous thing is that not only the Cardinals obviously hit a spot in the schedule that was favorable to them, but that the Cubs, stopped winning as well, and they were able to, really close that gap. And you like to see them, heading toward Memorial Day and fighting chance, maybe even leading the division.
Yeah. Well, so Brian, as we go back to your list, were there any of the players that you just couldn't decide on? You couldn't decide if their stock was down or flat or up, and you just kind of made a shooting from the hip decision that you're like, all right, I'm just going to stick with it.
Well, I think we all would like to see Chase Davis succeed. Chase Davis is number 10 on my list. I turned him down. But, the reality is, he's got a 364 on base. His batting average is 221, and he's not hitting for any power. And part of the package of Chase Davis was this guy with great discipline and power. And it seems, one of the raps on Chase Davis from within the organization was that when he was first drafted, that he was too tentative at the plate, that he came up in RBI situations and was content to take the walk instead of, getting the runs home. And, he's got 11 RBI. And that's part of that. Maybe is where he bats in the order, but he's got 11 RBI in 29 games, not much power at all. And it's a disappointment, especially for a first rounder.
Yeah, he's been flying around out in the outfield, which has been a positive sign. But what I feel like I'm learning about him, other than that, what you just pointed out, is that he is vulnerable to inside pitching. It's just that simple. It doesn't matter if it's coming from a lefty or a righty, specifically in what used to be categorized as the hot zone for lefties, which was low and inside. If I remember growing up, any lefty, you would never throw him anything low and inside because they'd rake. And that's just not the case with Chase Davis. That is his weak zone. He's tentative to swing at it. Like tonight, he gets a really tough breaking pitch on a 2-strike count from a lefty. And the breaking pitch is over the middle of the plate, and he gets his arms extended, pulls it. It's a line drive out to the right fielder. If he can get his arms extended, that's where he's dangerous. But they figured out really quick after, they were pitching at AA, they were pitching Chase Davis outside to start, and he was just pushing everything, but then they started moving him inside. And now ever since they started moving him inside, moving the pitches inside on him, he can't do anything with it. And that's really where he struggled. So he's going to need to learn how to adjust. He's going to need to learn how to hunt for that pitch. And until I see some progress from him in that regard, I would also say that he is trending down from his spectacular second half in 2024.
So I guess I wasn't really on the fence. I didn't answer that question completely honestly. Another guy that I was concerned about, he was in the top 20, Darwin Saladin, who is getting a shot at Peoria, the right-handed starter, has made 6 starts for the Chiefs, 15 walks in 22 and a third innings. Maybe he's just having trouble getting used to the new level, but his ERA is 5.64, and that's not something that I had expected to see from the 22-year-old at Peoria.
It's been, every time we talk about Peoria, it's been negatives. It just seems like, there is one positive, and I don't want to jump ahead too quick. Somebody that I think both of us, and also I think Rob Raines wrote an article about it, but Joshua Baez has been incredible after his slow start. But, what you did with Saladin, what you did with Salas in particular, like these are guys who should still be able to pitch pretty well at high A, and they just aren't. They are not. They might have a
Which is
good
really
start, but
surprising because they were really good at Palm Beach last year.
yeah, yeah, and they were really good at Palm Beach doing what is usually successful at high A, like locating what they do well, locating their best pitches. And both Salas and Saladin are good at locating their best pitches. So it's interesting to me that these two pitchers who know themselves pretty well are not having the success so far at high A that they had at low A, when that's the kind of thing that usually translates to high A, is really interesting to me. I don't know. I don't know. I've watched Saladin a lot, and he doesn't seem confident, and that's a weird thing. And I'm doing a poor job of portraying it, but it's just been frustrating to watch him, and he seems frustrated pitching. So,
well, I hope he, I'm sure the Cardinals do as well. I hope he can work that out.
yeah,
Let's go back to the guy that you brought up, and that's Joshua Baez. And I admit, I don't want to say I'd given up on Baez because he was still in my top 50, but he was hanging on by a fingernail at 47. Yeah. And I feel like I obviously overreacted when I've got Juan Bin Cho at 17 and Joshua Baez at 47, and their performance is, just the opposite.
Yeah, that was my exact reaction too. God, it's so funny that you bring up Juan Bin Cho, because I thought the same thing, Brian, when I saw your list, when you sent over your list and how their stock was trending. I thought, why am I doing this with Juan Bin Cho? Is it just because he's more svelte? Is it just that he's more like traditionally athletically built? Is it because it doesn't make any sense to do it the way that I've been doing it? So even with Zach Levinson, in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm holding on to Zach Levinson a little bit harder than Joshua Baez, just to keep it all in Peoria, that I'm holding on to Joshua Baez. And really, Joshua Baez is an athletic freak and with amazing baseball pedigree. So why am I doing this? And also, he's so young. Like, it's just.
But he's also repeating Peoria. Now,
exactly.
He's still young.
Yeah,
but,
and also going back and forth between Peoria and Palm Beach last year, and development list, and on and on and on.
But he's still only 22. Joshua Baez is still only 22.
Yeah,
I was struck because when he first signed, the first summer I was in the Florida Complex League, and I interviewed Joshua, and he was not short in confidence. He told me that his expectation was he was going to be in the major leagues in 2 or 3 years. It's like, well, God, good luck to you. I hope you do it. And, obviously he's learned that it's harder than he thought, but he hasn't given up. And everything I've heard is that he's worked very, very hard, has a positive attitude, and he should, because he still has plenty of runway ahead of him.
Yeah, and he's got some loud tools. It's funny. I was thinking about, and I'm going to try to reel it in, but Yordan Pena, I was thinking about him a little bit in reference to Josh Baez, because they both have big tools, similar builds, although Baez is built more like a linebacker, whereas Pena is built a little bit more like a wide receiver.
Yeah, slimmer. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like, they both have big arms, they both have big speed, big power potential, and also just a lot to get to where they need to be. Very raw. And I love the fact that everything has stayed positive with Joshua Baez. And here's the hoping that he finds his way to Springfield and continues to have success, because everything about the kid as a person is positive, even with a tough background, is my understanding.
Yeah. And Yordan Pena, you slipped that name in. I'm just typing that on my list. I'm not sure why I didn't include him for consideration, but he's a guy that certainly in the early start, I mean, he really impressed in spring training. A guy, coming out of rookie ball, is a guy that probably deserves to be at the upper edges of the top 50.
Yeah, I think he'll find his way there. He's had a very wishy-washy kind of start to the year. Again, if you hang it, he's going to hit it. He's going to hit it real hard. But he also doesn't really have a plan at the plate. And he makes some mistakes in the field and on the bases because he's just so raw. He's still getting to know what he's capable of on the base path. So
let me throw this one on you. And granted, I mean, different leagues, different results. JJ Weatherholt's OPS 755. Yordan Pena is 736.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's the number one prospect in the system, but we're talking about a 20-year-old that's holding his own in A ball.
Yeah, and a 20-year-old with peers like in that group. So like Reis Pino, like
Yeah, Luis
yeah,
Pino.
yeah, Super Mario Luis Pino. He's that age. He's 19, 20, and he's not having that success.
No,
Jonathan Mejia not having that success
no.
at Palm Beach. So again, a lot of really positives. Jose Suarez is kind of a contemporary, built a little bit more like Joshua Baez physically, with those big broad shoulders and the big tongue, strong body. Has had quite a bit of success at Palm Beach, but I believe he got a taste of it last year too,
Yeah.
which Pena has not. So you have to keep all that into account. They're both really Suarez and Pena are both really interesting prospects.
A couple of guys to definitely keep your eye on. And credit to Kyle for reminding me, very, very subtly reminding me that I need to keep those guys in mind. I want to come back to Levinson and Honeyman because, of course, they were drafted together in the same year. Levinson's hurt right now. Usually it's Honeyman that's hurt. Honeyman is playing very, very well at Palm Beach, as he should at this point. And I've kind of kept them lumped together because they hadn't really differentiated themselves yet. But I'm starting to come around to the fact that if Honeyman can just stay on the field, he's probably going to be have a much better chance probably of reaching the majors and contributing than Levinson. What's your take on the two?
Oh, I agree. Zach Levinson, he shows signs that he's going to bust out, and it just never happens. Like I remember last year, it was kind of the same thing. He would string together 2 or 3 good games. You would start to see him come to life, and then he'd lose himself at the plate. And that's happening again this year. So I question his pitch recognition, his swing decisions. And because of that, and granted, he's at a level higher than Honeyman, it's the opposite with Honeyman. Again, level difference is worth bringing back up. But Honeyman is really, really intelligent about how he attacks an at bat within each at bat. He adjusts, you can see him adjusting at the plate. And that all bodes well. He makes good swing decisions. And he's also just a better athlete. He has better tools across the board. He's a better outfielder, probably, better arm. Well, the arm, actually, Levinson probably has a better arm. But he's a better, higher IQ baseball player, which is hard to believe because, Brian, as we've talked, he's never on the field. He hasn't been on the field in years, it seems like. So,
Yeah, even when he plays, he's usually the DH. I guess they don't want him to get hurt.
Yeah, they're like, please don't run. Please don't throw. Just be careful.
So I like this. You coined a new word, dissuasions. I really like that. I'm going to write that one down, dissuasions.
We did it. I'm a blabbering idiot, Brian. I'm a blabbering idiot.
No. That wasn't my point. I like it. So another outfielder that I had ranked, right in the Levinson Honeyman area is a guy that is third from the bottom in the system in terms of OPS this year. And I would never have guessed it to be. And we're talking about Matt Koperniak. What's wrong with Matt Koperniak?
I don't have an answer, Brian. I tried to key in on him for about 2 weeks, about a week ago. So the 2 weeks that led up to this beginning, or I guess last week. And I don't know. I can't tell you. It doesn't seem like he's taking worse at bats. It doesn't seem like he's more aggressive, although the data tells us he's been a little bit more aggressive, which has hurt him. He just seems to kind of be on top of everything. And I don't have a good reason other than I would imagine that we'll see it start to level off in the next month, is my guess. But I don't see much of a difference. And my understanding is the underlying data kind of proves it out. So I don't know. Here's just to hoping that he puts it together a little bit. But I know he's frustrated. There's no doubt about that.
One of his teammates, and we're talking about one of Koperniak's teammates with Memphis, is a guy that's kind of, been on the edges of the top 20 for a long time. And I'm talking about infielder Cesar Prieto, hitting 300 for Memphis, 360 OBP, which for him is good because he, of course, doesn't take a lot of walks, but he also doesn't strike out a lot. 838 OPS, 21 RBI in 31 games. Prieto's doing a nice job. Actually, technically, his numbers are a little better than Sajasi's right now, but he's 3 years older and he doesn't have that 40-man roster spot.
Yeah, that's something I keep messing up. For whatever reason, I thought Cesar Prieto had the 40-man roster spot. And I don't know where I came up with that. So apologies for that. But yeah, look, it's always tough with such an advanced contact tool guy to ever evaluate him. And especially without like the raw power there. A lot of times when he's hitting a home run, it's that swing, which he's changed a little bit, but he has kind of a swoopy left-handed swing. He's leveled it out a little bit. but he just kind of gets under and lofts pitches. So you'll see a lot of home runs that are 98 miles an hour, 99, below 100 miles an hour, and that he's just kind of lofting and making good barrel contact, getting backspin. Where a lot of times, you're going to see 102, 104, 106, on and up for the power number. So he's still a better third baseman than he is a second baseman. He still is, he's played some short, but you can tell he's not quite comfortable there, which you wouldn't expect him to be. And I do still think that if there's a chance that they need a second baseman in a pinch, if they don't decide to go with the other 12 second basemen that are on the 40-man or in the organization, second or third baseman, I would imagine he'll make a major league debut. But, this is the part of the third season, right? Because when the Cardinals traded for him, they sent him to AAA, and then he was at AAA all last year, and now he's back to AAA. So parts of 3 seasons now at AAA too, which make it a weird adjustment.
And and of course he's got Barrero ahead of him, who's up. He's got Jose Fermin on the roster also, and Sajasi. So there's a lot of bodies that Cesar Prieto would have to step by before he could even get a chance with St. Louis. So but he is, to his credit, he's doing what he does. Now we're already pushing 30 minutes, so I'm gonna ask you to talk about any guys that we haven't covered that you would like to draw attention to that are trending positively.
I will say for me, one person you have flat, which again, this is just a small little disagreement, but I would say that Bryson Moutts for me is trending up. He's trending up in a big way. Again, I think he's holding batters to like a 222 batting average so far on the AA season. I view him as a reliever in the long term. I don't think he has the juice to be a long-term starter at the major league level, but he's developed a cutter, and I think his fastball cutter slider combo in particular, with maybe some other stuff working in here and there as a lefty, like there's major league upside, and he's gotten off to a really solid start at AA. And I don't know if I expected it until I saw that he had developed the cutter, and the cutter seems to be the big difference. So for me, he's one guy that I would have trending up as opposed to flat. But other than that, like
I can see where you're coming from. On first blush, a 4.13 ERA, but in the Texas League, that's not bad. 30 strikeouts against 8 walks in 24 innings. WHIP 1.167. 3.75 strikeout to walk ratio. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah. So that, like, he'd be the only one that I really thought that's where I would like truly maybe make a point against. The only other one
by the way, just before we leave him, I kind of, again, just kind of like I did with Honeyman and Levinson, I kind of throw, and it's not fair, Hansen and Mott's together, left-handers drafted in the same draft. And, we've talked before about how Hansen's made great steps forward this year. But in fact, Mott's is allowing fewer base runners than is Hansen now. More of Mott's are scoring, but that can also be, we're talking about 6 starts each.
Yeah. It's funny. I do the same thing with Hansen and Moutts. I can't separate them.
And it's not fair. It's not fair to either one of them, but
yeah, but they've been on. That's what happens when you climb the ladder together. Sometimes it just works out that way.
Anyway, sorry, I stopped you. You were bringing up one more player.
So the only other one that I saw, and for me, it would probably be flat because I rated him. I was pretty aggressive about ranking him. 37th is left-handed pitcher, undrafted free agent, Michael Watson. He had one rough appearance at Palm Beach, pitching out of the bullpen. I think he let up 7 runs in one appearance. And other than that, between already being promoted to Peoria, he's had quite a bit of success pitching out of Peoria's bullpen. He's been pitching multiple innings, and he's striking guys out. He showed some good stuff. So that is one where, for me, at 37, he probably is flat. But I could make an argument that he is trending up, if for no other reason than he's been promoted and he's having success at the promotion. So it's again splitting hairs for me, but those are the only 2 that I saw that I thought, maybe.
Yeah, and Watson, 4.86 ERA out of the bullpen. Again, he had one bad game. I get it. 10 walks and 16 2/3 innings. So there's some work that needs to be done there.
Yes. Yeah. So I again, flat makes all the sense in the world. But I love the fact that you were like down. down, and that you didn't pull punches, because I agree with that nearly
But
all of it.
the problem with that though, Kyle, is that if I, depending on how far down, what I didn't say is, up 3 spots or down 12 spots, right?
Yeah.
The reality is if more guys are down than up, some guys are going to move up the list just because of the level of the water, so to speak, not because they've necessarily performed better. So there's going to be flat guys that are moving up, and I don't like to do that. But the reality is, on the pitching side, a lot of the frontliners are hurt, and on the offensive side, a lot of the guys that we were hoping on haven't yet really stepped up like we hoped they would.
Yeah,
And that's reality.
man, those pitchers, the pitchers in the IL, it's just like, as you sent me the list, and as I started kind of doing some very light re-ranking of my own, it just like, it's so, when you see the players listed individually and you see the IL next to them, or in Lynn's case, the IL just coming off, and then you think about McGreevy and Graceffo, probably both will graduate off at some point this year. It's really, really startling how not thin the pitching in the organization is, but without health, pitching in the organization is in trouble. If the guys were healthy, it'd be a whole different story. There's a rumor that Tink Hence is going to be pitching again in organized baseball in the next couple of weeks, the next month or so. We'll see how that goes. But even then, it's like, we've been through this before. Let's hold our breath. Let's see where it goes.
He's going to start.
Let's not hold our breath.
He's going to start throwing 30 pitches, and then the next month he's going to throw 40 pitches. And the next month he's going to throw. I'm sorry. I'm just. Yeah. I mean, Tink Hence is ranked 3rd in my list, but I'm just fatigued. I'm fatigued, right? I just keep thinking back to draft day and Wynn and Walker and all the time they spent in the major leagues. And granted, pitching is different than position players, but it's just hard. I mean, at some point in time, if Tink Hence could be better, and again, I'm going on a path we've already been on. If he can be better served being a reliever and actually help St. Louis, it might be time to admit that and try it.
Yeah. Yeah. And but the other thing they'll do is they'll put him at AA where we can't see the data. And we'll just have to watch his fastball get hammered, because that was a big thing in spring. Other than the mechanical changes they made with him, is it flattened out his fastball. So there'll be some frustration there on our parts as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure the political, this would be something to pursue or think about before next time maybe, but the political ramifications of them putting him on Memphis when they knew he was hurt. I give him a promotion. I guess, it's a recognition of his potential rather than where he was as a pitcher at that time.
Yeah.
He certainly didn't throw enough. He didn't throw in spring training after the 11th of March. So I don't know how he could have earned that spot in Memphis other than, what he did previously.
Yeah. And I think at first they said that they were demoting him to Springfield, and then it was like, oh, he's on Memphis's roster, after there might have been some ire or questioning about it. So, but like you said, politics.
Well, the most important thing is I hope that rumor that you heard is right, and we'll see him pitching again soon, because even in a limited basis, it's a heck of a lot better than being on the 60-day injured list. So
yeah, but I love it. Make him a bullpen piece. Let's see where that gets us this year.
Kyle, thank you for being my unwitting assistant in rewriting my prospect rankings. I think in the mild disagreements, I'm at least you moved me on one, and the other one I'm kind of in the middle. I'll have to think about it a little more. You brought up some good names to think about. So that's also good. And later this week, I'll have my updated top 50. You have to be a member of the Cardinal Nation to read the detail, but you kind of got the gist here of what we're talking about. And hopefully it whetted your appetite to read a little more about what we have to offer here at the Cardinal Nation. Kyle, thanks again for a fun episode, and we will talk to you on the 21st of May.